Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Voices of Healing podcast. I'm your host, Tina Clark. I am a Reiki master teacher, and today's guest is Michael Blahut, and he is a medical doctor, but he also really believes in holistic healing, and he's going to share how his wife healed from autoimmune disease, and we're also going to go into what healing is, how to get to the root causes of healing, and all those topics that we love to hear about on this show. So welcome to the show, Michael.
Hi, Tina. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy to have a discussion with you and hopefully inspire other people to seek and explore their health further. Yeah.
So tell us more about your background, your history, and your story, because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think, this is really also very important for all of us. We all have a story to tap into that gives us potential for creating things in our life, for growth and for healing. And for me, I grew up always interested in the environment and connecting, being in nature. So actually, I went to college and I studied environmental science, and I love to be outside and try to, cultivate a good environment. And this, this trail follows to what you brought up about my wife, who I met. And what happened was I was in the Peace Corps. I was in the Fiji Islands as a volunteer, and my job was to work with environmental resources and help people, understand how to better manage, the modern world as it influences, traditional peoples, like in Fiji, where they didn't have plastic and rubber and artificial things until relatively recently. And they had a big problem there with, managing waste and burning things, and then, coral reef pollution and so forth. So once I realized, like when I was there, that what I really liked was working with people. And so I finished the Peace Corps volunteer and I went back and I moved to California, and I got into doing yoga and understanding my body and health. And I met my wife in a yoga teacher training, and she was from Italy. And we just stayed in touch. I thought we had a connection, and we were like, okay, this is an interesting person. She went back to Italy, and then she sent like a email to our big group saying, like, I'm really sick. I'm in Italy and I have this autoimmune disease called hyperthyroidism or Graves' disease, where basically your thyroid produces too much thyroid hormone, your body starts wasting away, you get really anxious, your heart palpitations. It can be really dangerous. And she, contacted us as a yoga group that we were in the training, saying, well, I don't know what to do. They want to, cut out my thyroid and take all these medications, and it doesn't feel right to me. So I just said, come back to California and see how you feel, and maybe we can find an alternative solution here. And she did that. And eventually what happened, from this story, what I learned is how powerful, healing is at like what's at the depth of healing isn't necessarily about what medicine you take, but how many things you can change in your life that are more in alignment with, who you are. So for her, it was, stress of being in Italy, the job she didn't like being in, the stress of family, pollution in the area she was living in, because in the northern part of Italy, it's a big valley for industry, and it actually holds a lot of heavy metals and pollution there, and it's pretty toxic. As we saw during COVID, the sickest people there were ones that were really toxic for other reasons. But in that way, she was able to get out, live by the beach, change the lifestyle, change the diet. And just from my experience with, seeing how she could heal, it just turned on a lot of things in me. So I went to say, like, wow, there's so much more I don't know and I'm curious about. So I went and I studied Chinese medicine. I studied shiatsu. I studied in yoga. I did yoga therapy, tried to understand what are these different healing arts. And I know, Tina, we talked about this briefly at the beginning. I took a Reiki training course. Even that was like way before when I was in college, and I didn't really know how to use that or what it was, but I thought it was something powerful and very something in alignment with my gifts, my nature to be in this world. So I that's been like my curiosity, is really to understand what's what's really going on here and how does healing really work. And just seeing my wife as an example that, we're often not told how powerful these things are, like changing your environment, changing your lifestyle, changing your diet. And then even what comes with that is just changing your thought processes about what's possible. And I think that is way more powerful than, just taking a pill for every problem or, supplementing our way out of deficiencies and that sort of thing. So that's been, where I'm at today. I went through the medical school process, and I also trained in osteopathy, which is a hands-on art of treating and using medicine in a way that brings our body back to balance and allows it to be more in synergy with how it wants to heal. And I think that's how I take, I try to inspire other people by, tapping into those resources that we all have.
So what are some of the best modalities that helped your wife? Because I'm sure we have listeners that has Graves' disease and autoimmune diseases, and they're looking for solutions. They're looking for something to try or explore. So what really helped her?
Well, it's a complicated question because, I think that everyone's journey is slightly different. When in the autoimmune disease as a group of, let's say, diagnoses are really a sign that our body has a stress that's going on. And to uncover what those stresses are is like a personal journey. However, in my experience, after seeing her and also hearing from other patients over the years of people that I work with, that autoimmune disease is really it's a strange phenomenon that, let's say, your body is attacking itself. Why would it ever want to do that? And does it actually do that? And in my experience, it's no, that's not really the case. It's just the immune system is on super defense mode and highly reactive. And there are casualties. Let's say, we have a battle going on and you just want to get rid of these invaders, you might have casualties by either a strong defense. And so deeper, I find, with autoimmune disease, and also like to answer your question, I find it's like finding out within you, like where are the key areas of stress and what you're not living in alignment with. That means that sometimes we're doing something, even though in the back of our mind, we know it's not good for us. Right. So if I say, I'm eating this food, but I know this isn't good for me. And then, but what happens is when we have the thought, it actually creates an immune defense mechanism, because our mind is in our nervous system is always talking to our body, and and our immune system is reacting to the information that's being given. So I find that, I don't want to speak for her directly, but in her case, it was just the idea and the thought that I'm having a job that I don't like. I'm around people that are not my tribe. She's into yoga, and it was really hard to find people that are really into yoga or really into, spirituality or, eating healthy. And so you're struggling, and that struggle comes out and your body's responsive, like something's not right here. And then the autoimmune pathways, the immune system gets triggered to tell you something's not right. And because in our mind, we know it's true, but now our body's manifesting symptoms to push us to explore different possibilities. So I think, like, if I have to, suggest people that are, working in autoimmune conditions, it's really to go deeper into question what are the things that create stress and that you're not living in alignment with, whether it's a relationship or a past that you haven't dealt with, or the foods that you're eating. Even like I have people that smoke and they're like, I love smoking and I've smoked my whole life and it's not a problem. Well, if you love smoking, it gives you something, it's probably more better than you smoking and saying this is bad for me. And we have evidence of people living way past 100 and still smoking. And it's not really, is it the thing that's the problem or more our reaction to that thing? So I think that's a powerful question to really ask. And most people, don't, we deal with the physical ailments, but the, mental, emotional, spiritual components of that autoimmune process are such a deep well to tap into for healing.
I think that is a really important point, and I just wanted to repeat what you said, because you said thought creates an immune defense.
Right. Yeah.
So this is where, if all of you have been listening to me, you know how important I feel thoughts and emotions are to our health. And that thoughts create a response in our body.
Exactly.
It creates emotions, it creates physical responses. And so, this is why it's so important to have a hold of our thoughts. Like, what are we thinking about? What's going through our minds? What I call stinking thinking.
Like that one. Yeah.
When you're on this roll, this negative roll, and and where is this coming from? Like, it's really a challenge, because I really believe in a positive mindset, and I've been practicing and meditating for a long time. I've been doing Reiki for a long time, but I will tell you, I still get into that stinking thinking, so.
Well, that's why these things are called practices. The things that we do. It's not like, oh, I'm going to do my yoga practice. So why we call it practice? Because it's preparing us to deal with the day-to-day things. And even in medicine, we call it a practice. Like, I have a practice, of patience. And why do we call it patience? Well, because we have to be patient and we have to practice. And practice just means that you're creating a pattern that's more in alignment with health. And I think ultimately what's really going on here is that we're all trying to get back to the sense of health and meaning and purpose in our lives that's in alignment with what we know is true for us, and what's underlying. And there's a lot of things in the world that are probably stimulating or causing friction, and whatever those things are, being in traffic or other people that push our buttons. And I think you're right, it is the thoughts creating the reality, because in medicine and in biology, we don't talk about how important that concept is really the physical body, and responses we have are ultimately fueled by our perception of the world, which is our senses, and then the senses interpret, and then the mind has a thought layered on, like, oh, if I look at a flower, it's a nice flower, it's an ugly flower, I like the color, I don't like the color, but the response to that external stimulus is the most important thing that creates the rest of the cascade in our body of what happens in our hormones, our immune system, the defense network, our nervous system, whether we're in the fight or flight or the parasympathetic rest and digest mode. And understanding that principles is really how I see that we can use our everyday life to either help us or hurt us, or use it as a medicine, or it could be a poison. And that ultimately comes, like you're saying, is just changing our perception or our thoughts. And it can be, that's the first step. But then once you have the perception and the thoughts, then we move into creating an action. And that way, the action doesn't happen without us deciding that it's an important thing. Like, I know I need to take time for this, or I'm going to sit here and breathe, or I'm going to spend energy in this relationship and not in that relationship. And the thoughts there, then we know it feels good for us, and then we can move into actually practicing it, which is also very important. Because I like the philosophy. I like, these things. Obviously, we can easily say to each other, just think better, but or think more positive, and that's true. And we need to practice it, and we need to create a neurological pathway for that to happen easier and easier. And that's probably more in alignment with our health in the end, for sure.
Yeah, so it might be simplistic to say this, but perhaps people who do have autoimmune disease are just very, very, very stressed people.
Right. Super stress. And, another thing I just thought of, because you bringing this up, is a lot of, for some reason we have statistics in medicine that most people with autoimmune disease are women. And it's not a problem, but what that's telling us is that, women have a different way to deal with stress than men. And women are more often, I know this is obviously, stereotyping, but it's really, I see this as true. It's very, very sensitive to, more sensitive than most guys about emotions, thoughts, and external stressors. Guys, what happens for us is we build up and then we collapse. And then I feel like for men, we tend to, put things away in boxes, and that becomes unhealthy. And then we have the heart attack, or we have some major event that then either is really, really an impetus for change, or we don't change. And it goes a different pathway. And I feel like why women are sensitive to autoimmune disease is they're very intuitive, very sensitive for their environment. I know this is, like I said, generalization, but the sensitivity means that if you're not living in alignment and your mind is thinking something that I need to do something different, and you're not, then your body's going to manifest it enough for you to start to have symptoms that are going to encourage you to seek health or seek somewhere else for help. And sometimes we just need that reflection with ourselves. And yeah, I don't know. And that's just my, there's some, other alternative, philosophies about, the differences in men and women and why this happens, but it is a curious thing. I don't know. What's your thoughts about that,
I
Tina?
think you're right, because if you think about feminine qualities, feminine qualities are more emotional, more intuitive, more about community and making decisions as a group, as opposed to like the pyramid of one person being in charge of everything. It's more collaborative. And then, overall, I feel like women are not recognized for the work they do. They are paid less than men. We do a lot of unpaid labor that's not recognized or acknowledged, even if it's simply just the emotional or mental load of the family.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is very stressful to be the only person thinking of those things.
Right.
So, yeah. And it's also about honoring ourselves and loving ourselves enough to say, enough, we're not going to do this anymore. We need help. We need our family's help, our husband's help, our community help, and we're not going to do this alone anymore.
Right.
Or we're not going to go over and above anymore, because we're not, it's depleting us. It's making us sick. It's making us stressed. It's making us unhappy.
Right.
So to me, like the two and two go together, like self-love and boundaries. The better your boundaries are, the better you love yourself.
Yes. Yeah. That is definitely an important thing. And I think we don't recognize, and this is also why, we were talking before, but, I moved to Costa Rica. I have my wife's here and my son is here. And what you're talking about is understanding that taking care of yourself is a priority, even if you're in a space where you're a mother, a father. I'm a doctor. I help people. You can't help anybody if you don't help yourself. And then the boundaries issue comes in, because if you are constantly being taken advantage of, or you feel drained, then you're not feeling yourself, and it's just going to make us sick. And it's not, sick people think of it as like a bad thing. And I try to and just examine what's really going on, why we manifest symptoms, why do we get sick, why do we have ailments or dis-ease, as we say. And I find that those are really, it's a loud noise that is talking to us, that we should listen to about what our body needs. So if we're working too much, then people end up getting a flu or a cold or something where they have to stay home and sleep. Well, that's what our body's asking. Just sleep for 3 days, or drink some broth and, cuddle up on your bed and don't do anything, because we often push ourselves too far. And that's, a lot of disease or a lot of chronic conditions are because we're not paying attention to what our body really needs. And that's a big one, is this sort of, and where we direct our energy, where's our boundaries, where, am I giving too much and not filling back up my cup? And that's essentially what chronic stress is over time, is that we don't have enough of the input on the filling up side, and we're being drained too much on the opposite. So our cup's empty, and then our body goes into this fight or flight mode and starvation mode, and is really, giving us signals of we need something else.
Yeah. And it's really about becoming stronger too. Like as you were talking, I was thinking about in Reiki, sometimes when you first start practicing, you might feel tired afterwards. And it's kind of like building that stamina so you get stronger. And as you go up the levels, the stronger and faster you become, but also the more you practice,
Right.
the stronger you will get too. But yeah, we just live in a really stressful world, and we're being told to do all these things that are actually making us sick.
Right.
Working all the time, worrying about money. I'm a big believer in rest. Like, I've always been a big sleeper, It's like a joke in my family. When growing up, I would wake up at 1 p.m. on the weekend and finally get up, and my whole family would look at me and like, oh, you finally decided to get up. And I just think I naturally was responded to a stressful environment, which was growing up in New York City. And as a sensitive person, can you imagine that's like double, triple the load for someone like me? So my outlet was sleep. I will tell you, it was sleep. And my very first recommendation for anybody, if they're not feeling well, perfect advice: sleep. Sleep as much as possible. Rest as much as possible.
Yeah, I like that 100%. I mean, maybe it's over, this sort of Western culture where we're at in our, United States, especially, this whole idea, working, you have to pay the bills, you don't have time for yourself. That's not what our bodies are designed to do. And that, sleep is incredibly restorative for so many reasons. And I love that because what also happens is we're able to synthesize mentally these stressors. And when we go into the sleep state, let's say, our unconscious gets more recognized, the things that we're putting aside, or the things that we know are true, but we're not recognizing. And so part of that is like, and I don't know your experience, as we talked about Reiki. I did Reiki, but I moved now to doing osteopathic medicine. And a lot of, if I'm doing hands-on work for people and someone passes out, what I find is, that's great. I love someone will sleep. That's fine. And what happens, I feel and I sense, is they're getting out of the way. They're sort of mental stressors, their belief about who they are, or this is weird, somebody's touching me, or whatever, like all this thinking gets out of the way, and then the body just kind of unifies in itself. And it means that things start connecting and we start doing faster healing. And I feel like it's because just the concept of we're overthinking, we're overstimulated, and when that drops away, like our real deeper parts of our body and health start to turn online. And so sometimes, meditation is a good segue into, now, you can be allowing your body to be rested, but being aware of yourself without trying to control anything. And that's why it's really like a bridge between, you're saying you need to sleep. And most kids, they don't realize this. They just, like where you were talking about, if we just sleep is amazing. I'll do the same. And I also know that bridging that state of keeping awareness of what my body's saying, where I'm at mentally, what do I need, how's the day gonna go, just being in a meditative process of rest with my physical body and breathing and just maintaining awareness for whatever, people have a practice of that. It's really a good bridge into connecting with that rest response.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've had Reiki clients that fall asleep on the table.
Yeah.
And it always amazes to me because it's probably the first time we met. You've never been in this room before, and I take it as a compliment. You actually fell asleep. You fell sick. You were safe enough. You felt safe enough to fall asleep on the table. And I always say it's okay. Like you're still receiving Reiki. You're just asleep. You'll probably receive it even more because your mind is not trying to block anything or get in the way of things. So maybe the body's smarter than we realize.
That's 100%. I agree. What you're saying, you must be having the right vibe that put people into a safe place, and they know they really need it. And so just, we know that if someone doesn't feel safe, there's no way they're going to go to sleep. So that's feeling safe and secure, and with someone that's, trusting. And even if you meet someone first time, we have that, unconscious, resonance to know, oh, this is a good person, this isn't a good person. Or we have an alignment about something that I know I can work on my healing. So that's it's super important. And also for people who are getting treatments like that, it's like, if you feel like going to sleep, don't resist it. Just let your body do what it wants to do, and your mind too, because we try to control so many things. And of course, if it's a new experience, we're thinking about how's this going to go? I don't know. But letting go and trusting is a really powerful tool, especially in the healing arts, like whether it's acupuncture, massage, shiatsu, or any type, anything really. It's really important to allow our bodies to have that time.
I mean, people are so stressed that they don't even recognize what feeling relaxed is like. Like I've gotten feedback from clients, I feel very heavy.
Yeah.
And I said, it's because you're relaxed, and maybe even more that you're grounded, right? Like you're really in your body, and you're really present in your body and not trying to escape.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's why I love Reiki, because I mean, how often does anybody feel relaxed in that piece?
I know. Yeah, that's a huge gift, because I think the number one reason why most of us, like we were talking about, manifest these symptoms is just the stress, overwhelmed nature, and not enough rest. So any therapies, I mean, I like Reiki, I like any arts that's really getting people closer to that, but we can just put labels on so many things. Like I did yoga, and I trained in yoga for a long time. I had a personal resistance, because I went to a yoga class in a gym, and it was like, that doesn't feel right. But it took me some time to try different approaches, and I'm like, wow, there's such a broad spectrum of what's yoga, and I found the right one for me. So also what you're describing, people oftentimes ask me, well, I tried Reiki, it didn't work, or I tried acupuncture, it didn't work. Okay, tried one time, how also, maybe it wasn't the right person, maybe it wasn't the right place, the time you were in. So give things like an honest try, or to also allow the possibilities that there's, that it might not just be, that one time, that one experience that's going to help you. We need to really explore those things. So I try to encourage people when we're talking about this, like I have patients, like the number one category is stress. Okay, what can I do? Well, here's like a list of things, and it's up to you to explore what works for you. And it's really important to explore that and do it like it's your job, like it's your medicine. Invest your time into whatever, 1 hour a week, especially for busy parents or moms or whoever, when this adds up, and you can't even schedule in your day like a 1 hour break. That's a problem. And we're going to build up health issues from that. So when you say like Reiki hands-on therapeutic touch, massage, whatever it is, if you intentionally schedule that and allow your body to get into like a trusting pattern that it's helpful, it's very powerful for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for moms, because there's this expectation that you're always available and always on. And I remember when I would stay at home with my first daughter, and she was a lot of work, to entertain her. We did activities. We sometimes we had temper tantrums throughout the day. And then my husband would come home from work, and I'd literally hand her to him.
Yeah. Your
And I'd be
turn.
like, I have to go upstairs for a while. Like I disappear. I would try to meditate and clear my mind, for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes, for an hour, take a mini nap.
Right.
And then I would come back downstairs.
Right,
But
right.
I like know that I need this break. Like
Yeah.
and it's not for long, but please take the baby, because I've been with the baby
Oh, yeah.
all day.
100%. That's like this is what you're discussing is really a big cultural problem for us, and especially in the Western world, where we separated, you got this nuclear family, we separated from the tribe, the community, and now parents and especially moms in isolation, builds up so much stress and ill health, and it affects the child too. If not just you as a parent or as a mom, it really affects the child's nervous system to sense that there's more stress going on, so they get a little more, I guess, they have more sense of something's not right. And I definitely see that in kids that I treat. It's actually, the point is to treat the parents so that the kids feel better, because the kids are really just a reflection of the world around them. Of course, they bring their own, nature to it. And then a lot of times is like what you're mentioning, is we lost connection with our mother, our parents, our grandparents, our, relatives, and our community. And this is a symptom of the greater loss as a humanity, where we're at. We have separated ourselves from the real tradition of being in tight-knit communities, where, like you as a mom, if your partner's out working, or they have someone else, they need to have someone else to rely on. Call on your mom, your grandmother, your mother-in-law, your cousins, or, like, I need a day to do this, I need half a day to do that. And that way, I think, is how really what we're designed to be like as a species, as a humanity, as nature, as you really observe. And people feel a huge shift now. I feel like I notice talking to more and more people that's a big focus for them, is to find the right community, the right people to be around, and the right support. And I believe that that's really important, especially in these times when there's so much stress and separation in the world.
Yeah, what really helped me, and there's a organization called Moms Club International, and it's for like stay-at-home moms, and there's different local chapters all over the world. And I joined that, and we would do play groups together. We would go like outings together. And what really helped me? Seeing children, other people's children the same age as mine, because I realized, oh my God, they have the same behavior. Like my child does that. And then you don't think, oh, I'm not crazy, or, this is a common thing. And then you can talk to the mother and say, hey, my child does the same thing. How do you deal with it? How do you handle it? How do you discipline them? So that really helped, because when you're alone, you don't know what the commonalities are. You don't know this different stages too, like just the different stages the children go through, and that they go through it. They have commonalities there. And so that really helped me. I mean, I've met a lot of women, and it just helped. And then it was just so nice to be in a play group and have other people watch your child too, instead of just you.
Right. Yeah,
they had eyes on them too.
Yeah, that's important for sure. And also the kids respond to that sort of the other authoritarian figures other than the parents. So it's not this dynamic all the time. I noticed that's also important, having other people say, hey, maybe that's not safe. We need to try it this way. And so this is something that also, like I mentioned, I have a son that's 9 years old that we deal with a lot. And part of our reason for moving here to Costa Rica too was that idea of going back to the community sort of tribe mentality of that we all can support and help each other. And I think that there are places in the world where these, like communities, not like intentional communities, but just communities where people want that more. And so we can rely on other people more. We feel more safe around letting, a kid run around and play outside, because I know there's other parents that are on the same page and are keeping an eye out. And a lot of places have lost that, sort of the safety. And I know as I grew up, it's a different world than what my son's growing up in. So I think it's important to tap back into that and to recognize those are very helpful ideas that if you're a stressed parent or a mother in particular, and you don't have your mother and your grandmother to like even bounce ideas off of, like, is this normal? Is that normal? Oh yeah, your cousin did this and that. So it's like, okay, we need that feedback. Otherwise, the stress amplifies. You start thinking something's wrong. I'm a bad parent. This and that. I'm like, no, that's normal. That's okay. And maybe offering some advice of like, oh, did you try this or try that? And so we need each other for those things. And I look at it as like an ecosystem, because nature is constantly learning from itself and adapting. And for us, if we don't have each other and we don't have a community of different people, then the diversity goes down. That means we're just with ourselves and with our, let's say, maybe the partner or father or mother of the child. Then when diversity goes down, we always suffer. And just like in nature, more biodiversity is more resilience, and more diversity in thought and in experience from other people provides a more resilient, community. And that reflects onto us as individuals. So I really think of it that way too, just seeing all this sort of context together of our bodies and our minds and our families are really intimately connected to everything all the time.
Exactly. I completely agree. So we have a few minutes left, Michael. Can you share where people can contact you? And are you offering anything online, or tell us what you're up to?
Well, yeah, I appreciate it. And really right now, what my goal is for education and connecting with people. I do telemedicine around the United States for, what we call functional medicine or integrative health. And right now I finished a book called Everyday Medicine. And these are like the concepts that I talk about in my book. I have these broad categories of things we can do in our everyday life that are very powerful and backed by science, but are sort of ancient ways of that we used to do things as a people. So that book I wrote, it's on Amazon, called Everyday Medicine. And with that thought, I'm now coming up with and promoting a retreat that I'm holding in Costa Rica about these concepts of everyday medicine. How do we apply them in our lives? How do we learn that response for tapping into our healing potential and working on our stressors with practical tools? And those tools are, understanding how to sleep right, how to move right, how to think right, how to breathe. And there's like many different tools available. I talk a lot about light and using sunlight as medicine, using light and working with our, technology better so that our body's in a better, healthier state. So in the retreat, my goal is to just get people together and experiencing things in nature in Costa Rica near the ocean and connect back to our healing response. And I think that sometimes, like you mentioned, we need these moments to get away from our day-to-day hustle and bustle and just live and do something that feels really good so that we maintain that memory in a way and that we can do it in our everyday life. Because when I learned yoga and all these practices, I would have to go somewhere, go to a yoga class, go to a training, and then I learn and practice more. And then I'm like, okay, well, I can just wake up and do it in my house. Like I don't need to go somewhere. So that's also the idea with these type of tools of how to embody them and feel it, experience it, and then know, oh, this type of breathing, if I do this 5 minutes, like I feel amazing. Wow, I should, this sounds like a great tool to have and carry on when in my day-to-day life. So that's where I'm at now, trying to help people and promote, this sort of lifestyle or alternative approaches in healthcare.
And what are the dates of the retreat?
So the retreat is at the end of the year. It's December 28th to January 3rd. And I have it's a New Year's retreat. It's called Renew Yourself and Renew Your Health retreat. And my concept is to kind of bring these all together. And of course, I tie it in with the New Year's and a practical, what do you want to create for yourself? There's some journaling, there's some feedback from other people to support each other, and to use the power of the sort of New Year turning to move ourselves into better habits and a better state of health.
Great. That sounds amazing. Might be a good excuse to go visit Costa Rica for the first time.
Definitely. And it's not far from the States, and people think, wow, it's like some far off place. It's a couple hour flight depending where you are. And I find it to be very healing because there's so much green here. There's so much biodiversity in nature, and the very good, I guess food is more local and sustainable, seasonal. And that's what I think a lot of people respond to when they come here. They're like, why do I feel so good? It's just tapping back into our body's designed to be in environments like that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to thank you so much, Michael, for being on the show. And I enjoyed talking with you about these things. We seem to be on the same page. So all of his information will be in the show notes, and contact him if you want a session or you want to attend the retreat that will be on December 28th to January 3rd in Costa Rica.
All right. Thank you. It's been awesome talking with you too, Tina.